We have really great sponsors like the San Gabriel Economic Partnership. Sponsor us and we'll promote you too. Now for the morning buzz. There is still quarrel between the police and Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely, and we're laying police officers to rest as we speak, just shy of the two black men who were shot and killed, one in Louisiana, one in Minnesota. And so we do have Steve Lamb on with us today to discuss Black Lives Matter. Thank you very much for being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you actually have an interesting connection or background with Black Lives Matter and have a little history of really how it started. So maybe you can share, it wasn't originally called Black Lives Matter.
Well, no, that's not exactly true. There's a group called Dignity and Power Now.
Okay.
It's led by 3 African American women in Los Angeles. They are fighting sheriff's violence in the jails and on the streets. When Ferguson happened and another African American man was killed, Patrice Cullors, who's one of their 3 organizers, hashtagged Black Lives Matter, and that went viral. And she and her fellow activists are sort of considered the founders of that movement, but it's kind of a nebulous movement that doesn't have like a tight corporate national structure. So it's really hard to say who and what Black Lives Matter really is because of that kind of organizational structure.
Do they have a mission statement or?
I don't believe they have a national, I mean, you know, stop killing us is probably,
right.
You know, I'm not aware that they have like a formal, like, 14-point program like the Black Panthers had or anything like that.
Yeah, interesting too, because the Tea Party, I don't think they were official in having a charter. I think they become more official. I'm not sure how structured they are at this point, but really sounds like Black Lives Matter started very similarly, very kind of open-ended and still trying to figure out where they go from here.
Yeah, that's a movement paradigm that was actually founded by Earth First. And a lot of left-wing movements actually have been using that organizing method since then. So it's sort of a non-hierarchical enterprise.
So Black Lives Matter, their beef is with the police.
Sure.
So do you think it's both faults or?
No.
No.
I don't. I really think, you know, policing in this country is carried on in an extremely unconstitutional manner. And, you know, I'm a white guy, obviously, but my former business partners are black. And through hanging out with them and through having a construction crew that was mostly black, I got to have a lot of experience of how the police treat black people differently and unconstitutionally and immorally compared to white people. And so, no, I think the beef is totally legitimate.
Okay. Let's talk about some of these shootings. Let's start with
Louisiana.
What was happening in the streets?
The one.
What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, shootings are always difficult because, you know, I have relatives who are police, and we can look at the same videotape and see an entirely different world. But certainly the young man who was in his car with his girlfriend.
As a passenger.
As a passenger, and he notified the police that he was armed, and they asked him to reach for his wallet, and he reached for his wallet, and they shot him. I mean, you know, there's no excuse for that. And I have friends who are white who have concealed carry permits, and I've been with them when they've notified the police, and you know, they didn't get shot.
Yeah, I don't think it was handled well at all.
Yeah. You know, the girlfriend, though, is the person, I mean, I just cried when I saw it because there she is. She's like trying to keep it cool to keep herself and her daughter
together
from getting
back
shot.
seat.
Yeah, I mean, that just was heartbreaking.
How are they handling that shooting?
I think, obviously, they're going to do an investigation. I mean,
Well, and clearly not everyone should be a police officer. I mean, I've heard stories in the past where this is many years ago, had nothing to do with race, but a homeless, mentally ill man was lunging at a police officer with a broom. That police officer was frightened and shot and killed that individual. Someone else may not have felt so threatened, but this was a police officer who had a gun. And we don't necessarily know how some of our officers will behave despite their training when they're stuck in a situation. And there are good good cops, bad cops. There are good priests, bad priests, good lawyers, bad lawyers. How do we justify some of these actions moving forward with the police being shot now?
Well, you know, I'm certainly not a person who like circles around the police bandwagon. But recently we had the shooting in Pasadena of a young man named Kendrick McDade. And Joe Brown was in charge of the NAACP in those days, and I met with, a group of us met with Chief Sanchez, who's a Pasadena Police Department chief. And, you know, one of the issues that came up was the military service of the officers involved, and whether or not the department was testing officers for PTSD, and he was just outraged at the thought that I would suggest that. But I mean, a lot of our officers are coming back from 10 years of war in the Gulf, and they're not being tested for PTSD, and even ongoing. You know, people who are in departments aren't being tested for PTSD. They're not being treated for PTSD, and here they have a situation.
Or even in a situation where nobody was shot, but it was
Right.
significant.
Right. Well, and they're in a situation all the time where they don't know. I mean, they're in a warrior, guard up mentality all the time because they really honestly don't know if they're going to be shot at any traffic stop. And they really do need to have ongoing psychological treatment. And I think the fact that we don't allow that, we don't provide that, won't talk about that, is actually a danger to them and the rest of society.
I like that.
Yes.
And Steve Lamb, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that is something we absolutely need to address. Our police officers need to be physically fit. They should be mentally fit as well.
They probably need to evaluate the hiring process.
Exactly. And I think PTSD is a huge issue that we really have not addressed with a lot of our officers and military folks.
Yep.
And I think they deserve to be supported through that process. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Come with us again.
I'll do that.
Be with us again.
Up next, what can the state of California do for you?
Absolutely. We have Coco 9 on from the Department of Rehabilitation talking with us about how he can help.